True. Yeah. So, any tip for young developers who want to be a future CTO, like how they should plan their path towards being a CTO?
Yeah, sure. I think there are. So I think in the initial years of a developer, right? I think what they need to focus on is to tone their technical skills, get really better at what they actually do.
Hmm.
I have actually noticed that you kind of need to focus on being a generalist rather than actually a specialist, right? But then you still need to develop deep knowledge in a couple of fields. So let's say um, if the technology company is building on blockchain, right, as an example, then you kind of like need to develop those skills as well. That's going to be one of those core things. Or if the company is specific to a certain domain, if you're in, let's say, in the health industry, right? So knowing that knowledge will really help. But I think apart from the deep knowledge, I think it's good to be a generalist. So you kind of like know at a very wide level what are the things that need to be done, and I think that'll be really important. So if you have an opportunity to become an architect and start looking at not just let's say a lot of times what happens is a developer starts and then they spend a number of years in an area that they're really comfortable, but let's say they're working on API development or something, they get stuck on it for a very long time.
Hmm.
They kind of like need to move away from it. Or if you're a front end developer, that's what they like doing and they kind of like keep doing it over and over again. They kind of like need to break away from their comfort zone and look at it from a very high level. So if you're developing a product, for example, you kind of like need to start to understand, look, apart from the API, how are the other things that are actually falling into place, right? That's the first thing they need to focus on. If you are working at an let's say an enterprise level, right, not to just focus on the kind of things that they're working on. They kind of like need to start looking at, look, these are all the applications that the enterprise or the company uses. How do all of these things fall into place? How do all of these things start to achieve or lead to the business outcome? I think that's some of the things that need to grow into, right?
True.
I think it's really essential for people to start getting delivery skills. So
Mm.
delivery and leadership, I would say, is like a really important part of growth from a developer into like a senior management position, like a CTO. So if any of these developers have an opportunity to become like a scrum master of a team or do a little bit, learn something around project management and program management, I would basically say put your hand up and learn those skills because they're going to be really useful as you move along the chain.
Mm.
Um, and leadership is a really important aspect of this. So um, getting people management skills. How do you actually manage people is going to be really important. If we talk about people management is a really big area. I mean, in a lot of organizations, they give you a lot of support to kind of like help you manage people. So initially you start with managing a few people, then you
Hmm.
actually start to manage other people who actually start to manage people, right?
Right.
So you become a manager of people managers,
Hmm.
and then you start to look at how you start to manage a division or um, a group and things like that, right? So learning to do all those things, that leadership, the skills, honing in on those skills is really essential as part of the growth from a developer to a CTO, I feel.
True.
Um, and then there's a lot of management functions, right? I mean, there are things like financials. Talk about things like opex and capex and how do you manage them.
Mm.
How do you manage careers of other people? All of those things, and knowing how marketing works, how sales works, all those kind of things was going to be quite helpful.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
but I think understanding the domain or the product, kind of like really understanding that, would also be a key thing for a lot of developers because that helps in the growth within the company itself.
True. True.
Or even when you go outside. So, if you're really strong in that domain, it kind of like helps you get jobs in similar domains and so on. And sometimes, getting stuck in the same company or period of time, you kind of like starts to constrain your ability to think and everything else. Just going outside, that's why sometimes consulting and all those things, gigs kind of like help you as well. I think this is kind of like a broad level of things.
True.